Welcome to Trauma and Transcendence, where healing meets awakening. I'm Amanda M. Dodd, your guide on this transformative journey. Thank you for joining me on this episode. Let's transcend together. Hello, soulful seekers. Welcome back to this episode of Trauma and Transcendence. Today, as always, I have a special guest, but I really do mean it every time I say it. And each of these guests are really people that I look up to that are either mentors or wonderful colleagues doing exciting things in the field. Today is exceptional because my guest is exceptional. This is Jim Kellner. He's a wonderful hypnotist, and I can't wait for you to meet him. Today, Jim, what would you like my audience here at Trauma and Transcendence to know about you?
Great question. Well, I'm a recovering loser. I changed my life around about 15 years ago, and when I say loser, it's not because of the jobs I was doing or the place I was living, all that kind of stuff. It was because I wasn't doing what I knew I wanted to be doing, and really felt like I could be doing, and maybe even should be doing. And like many people out there that I think that listen to this kind of work, that kind of consume this kind of work, we feel like there's something within us that says that we're intended for something bigger than maybe most. I hate to say it like that, but I mean, there are some people that are just happy just to coast along in life. And I think that for many of us, there's a calling to do something bigger, not necessarily better, but bigger. And so I've always felt that and finally started living that. I'm the co-founder of two hypnosis conferences. I'm a hypnosis trainer, entrepreneur trainer, and all around swell fellow.
I'd have to agree. And if you keep dropping weight and getting healthy like this, we're going to start calling you Slim Jim.
Works for me.
It's
better than Big Jim, which I always find so funny when I remember I worked for this guy, and he was a short little guy, 5'4", and he would say, "Hey, Big Jim," and I always just want to go, "Hey, Short Mike," like. Are we using adjectives to describe each other? Is that what we're doing? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hey, Dumb George.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough. When I grew up, there was actually a big Amanda and I was little Amanda. And I always felt a little bit like, well, I want to be a big kid.
Yeah,
like it does. It does.
exactly.
I am sorry. That is uncomfortable. But it has been amazing to watch you meet and achieve some of these goals. I guess I must have met you at a really key interesting point because I've just been watching you nail it ever since, whether it's creating hypnosis conferences, giving exceptional keynote speaking talks, or teaching. I'm a huge fan of everything you've done so far.
Well, thank you, Amanda.
Yeah. So what kind of woke you up to the fact that there might be more for you and that you wanted to make the change?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know that anything woke me up. It's just always been there. I mean, ever since I can remember, I felt like, and I don't know if this was just ego or if there really is something, but I have talked to a lot of other people that have that feeling like they are meant for something bigger. And I don't mean like necessarily Jesus big, but maybe bigger than just, I remember early on, like in my early 20s or something, hearing the name of a movie called um, A Life Less Ordinary. And I thought that really was like, I was like, oh my God, that is my new slogan for life. Although then years later, I watched the movie and it was nothing like what I thought. But I mean, a fine movie if you're looking at it for what it is, but it was not like what I thought it was. So I've always just kind of felt like I wanted to do things differently, bigger, but I didn't really know how to get there. And I know I remember staying up. This is before your time, Amanda, but there was a time when there were these late night infomercials that ran all night long, and I would stay up late, often coming in maybe from drinking too much or something like that, and watch these things of Anthony Robbins and people like him, kind of talking about success stuff. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. I'm a loser. And so it really wasn't that I came to realize it. It was just that I finally discovered the tools to do it.
Oh. You were going to end up in this industry one way or another. I mean, if you hop on the Tony Robbins train, he's going to take you straight to NLP. Hypnosis
Oh yeah,
isn't far behind. Yeah.
I can still remember, like just watching this. I mean, back then he was just this really tall, gangly, skinny guy in kind of a suit that was a little bit too big, you know.
Yes. I remember that. Yeah.
and and it's interesting to watch his growth, because now he's become this big giant, buff dude, and really got his message honed in. But I just remember going, how could I do this? Because number one, I was terribly shy. I was incredibly shy. I couldn't talk to people one on one, let alone on stage. And I guess one of the things that finally, I'd say my biggest step towards starting to realize my dreams came from when I first started taking acting classes, because I wanted to do something so big, so scary, that would just knock me out of that shyness, and that was the biggest thing I could think of. And it helped so much. It transformed my life. It's one of those, we have these pivotal moments in our life, and those are one of those pivotal things that I did.
Did that in a very different way, and I'm not going to go there.
Oh,
But
tell
I think
us.
for some of us, we definitely have to. Um, I shouldn't, but at one point, I had done every customer service gig you could think of. And I knew that I had to get past that shyness as well. I recently moved to Calgary, Alberta, so I was in a brand new place, and maybe that's what made it so that I could do it. I had been working in a computer shop, and it just wasn't for me. Like, I was exhausted. There was nowhere to go there, no way up. So when a friend said, "Hey, I work in an adult shop. Why don't you come and join me? It'll be different." Yeah,
Different indeed.
that face is why I shouldn't have. No, it was. But like you, I had to break out of that shyness. I'm a Cancer sun sign, so it is more natural for me to kind of cling and be internal. So the fact that I'm out there and presenting like you, I had to break out of that shell. That was a hard transition, but that's what it was for me. I guess I could have gone the acting or the improv comedy route. Maybe that would have been a less reddening experience at times. Got some great stories though.
I bet. Yeah.
Yeah. So did that help you going the acting route to really bust out in the way that you wanted to, or was it still kind of something that you'd had to chip away at over time?
I would say it came in levels. It really
Yeah.
did. And also for each performance type that I've done, there's been a new level of anxiety, fear. When I went from doing stage acting to do some TV acting, a little bit, it was a little bit different, or for TV and film, and nothing that people would have seen. Um, but I actually got cut out of a TV show that would have been seen, but they were running long, and my scene wasn't that important, so I got cut out. But so when I started doing, for instance, when I did stage in school, then when I did stage professionally, I say professionally, I got a $50 stipend, so it made it professional. And then when I went to stand up comedy, that was another thing that really scared me and pushed me further. Stand up comedy was probably the best. That was the very best, because you're up on stage by yourself. You're also writing your own stuff. And so it's all on you. I mean, it is, you can't blame the director. You can't blame your other actors. You can't blame the script. It is all you. And so that was the most terrifying. Although I will say, improv still scares me. Singing in public scares me. I should probably do them both. Improv scares me because they say there's no rules, but there are rules, and so I feel very uncomfortable doing improv. I can do it if somebody said, "Hey Jim, jump up on stage, do improv," I'd do it, because I know it's much better to just jump at those.
To give it a shot and see what happens. Yeah. But it sounds like you really looked for the edge every time and then put yourself in it and allowed
Well,
yourself
it's funny, and
to
I
be
actually had a
uncomfortable
conversation.
sometimes.
You know what? It's one of the best things about becoming a performer. Um, so it not only are you're having to go through situations all the time where there's it's fearful, you also get a lot of rejection, which I know people go, oh, that's terrible. But no, it's actually good, because the more times you get rejected, the more times you get success. And so you get to a point where it just almost doesn't even matter anymore. I'll go for a role now, and I'll be like, oh, that would be great to get that, but I don't get too excited about it. And if I don't get it, I'm just like, whatever. Like I was up for to play an actual hypnotist for something, for a pretty would have been a pretty big deal, and I got super excited at first. I was like, well, calm down, let's calm down, because oftentimes these things come about where they're like, hey, we want you for this thing, and then but what really is we want. Oh well, now on second thought, it's like people get excited and they're like, "Oh yeah, you'd be perfect." And they're like, "Oh, maybe we should look at some other people too." And then, oh, other people have decisions in it, and so
Yeah.
um, it's even like with getting a booking a gig. Like I used to get, oh yes, this is awesome, and now I'm just like, until that contract's signed, I mean, I'll get excited, but I don't count on it like I used to. But even now, like I'll drive to a gig sometimes and be thinking, God, I hope they just cancel. I really just hope they cancel. Maybe there'll be like a fire or something, and nobody will get hurt, but they'll just call me in like an hour before and say, "Oh, you don't have to go on, Jim," um, because
Yeah.
it's still like every time you.
So you're how many years into being on stage now? And that still arises for you.
Yes,
Really appreciate you speaking to that. Because sometimes when I do some of the things I do, people say, like, how did you get at it the way that you are? And it's like, oh, same BS still comes up every time, but I choose
yeah,
to just rise to the occasion anyway. Here you are 30 years in, and still it might be fleeting, it might be faster, it might be getting smaller, but there's still that brief moment.
yep. There's a lot of us that are speakers, that are teachers, that still have that fear. For me, and I've talked to some other people too, is once my foot hits the stage, it's mostly gone. I'm on. Now I'm on. I'm going to be fine now until it's over. Even in the moment, there'll be stuff going on. I don't panic though. It's just doing my job, just getting through it. Um, and sometimes I'm just getting through it. Sometimes, sometimes there's nothing you can do. The audience, we never try to blame the audience, but sometimes it's the audience. Sometimes it's the venue, the sound system. God knows what else can go wrong. But and this is the thing that I think is so important for people to understand, is they might look at you or I and go, oh, I could never do that because I'm not like you. Bull crap. You're I was just as afraid as you were,
Yeah.
when it was terrifying for me. I write about it in my book, like how scared I was that first time on stage. And there was only like 25 people in the class. It was just my fellow students, terrified. And that wasn't really my first time on stage. It was my first time at this college in an acting class. But and then still, there's still times when I am really, really, really scared. I'll say now, mostly speaking at conferences, hypnosis conferences, I don't feel too much anymore, because I've been doing it for so long, and I'm frankly, I know I'm pretty good at it. And so I may not, my presentation may not be, uh, I may be frazzled or something, like you saw this last conference at HypnoThoughts, but I know I've still got a lot of good info, so I don't let that really hold me up too much.
I think I'm scared up until I make the decision to be excited, which I heard you talk about too. So for me, that's how I like to work through it. Is either I remember that there's a saying, fear is excitement without breath. And it's like, oh, I forgot to breathe. No wonder I'm nervous. So usually what I'll do is I'll guide the audience or whatever group I'm working with to take that nice big deep breath, get embodied. And then it's like, okay, how can I be of service today? And then I'm excited because I just took myself out of the way. But I don't do by no means the things that you do. Even looking at your TEDx talk, I'm like, ooh, how does it get on stage with that many people in the audience? And now maybe more. That's that beautiful opportunity to take our ego and set it aside, and it's not about us anymore. And I liked how you were talking about whether you wrap a gift in wrapping paper or newspaper, it's still a gift. And I think when anyone does anything long enough, we forget that for someone who's got beginner mind and they look at us, they're gleaming all kinds of things that we don't even consider anymore. Like when I go out in the world and I talk about mediumship, I'm always wondering if I'm giving enough content, if they're really gonna catch it and run with it the way that I hope they do. And oftentimes, I don't realize, oh, I've been at this for a long time and I'm forgetting beginner mind and how different things look. So I'm imagining it's very much the same for you. And I've enjoyed every presentation you've given. You're a very busy guy, that's for sure. And then, when you talk about like social media and stuff, yeah, you're natural, and I wouldn't be able to tell that you're an introvert. And I think we can grow through that. But if we allowed it to, hold that label, sure, we could use that as a reason not to grow and not to do the things we want to do. Or we could say, because I'm an introvert, I'm going to work a little bit harder and get really uncomfortable so that I can be more comfortable doing this one thing. Like, yeah, change is uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that the discomfort is saying that the change isn't possible. And I
Yeah, I
think
think
if
that's such a
anything, sorry, I get
that's
lag sometimes. But I think if anything, if there is discomfort, that is your sign that you are in the process of changing.
absolutely. Yep. Every new thing I do, I'm starting off as I start with a beginner's mind. I have to, I may be great at this one thing, but I'm not so great at this other thing. And so you can either keep doing what
Like that, trying new things, learning, adapting, and growing. So, right now, your book is currently available. I know because I've pre ordered my copy. When do they ship? What does that timeline look like?
September 1st, 2024. So you can pre-order the Kindle version right now for $2.99,
Nice.
and after it's been out for a bit, it'll go up to the regular price. Paperbacks and hardbacks will be available on 9/1, and I think I've gotten a lot of good feedback from reviewers, proofreaders, everybody. I think it's one of those things where you never really know when you create something, is as good or not. So what I can say is it's helpful. I won't.
Who is this book most for? Who would benefit the most?
um, People whose life sucks. Really, they're going to get the most bang out of it. So if you catch yourself going, God, life sucks. If you're not, and here's the thing, I don't care if you're like you're unemployed or you're working at a mini mart or you're the CEO of a company. If you feel like this is not what you should be doing, that maybe you're meant for something bigger, better, and or different, then you're going to get benefit from this book, because so much of where we are in life is, and really, I mean, as you know, I mean, there's a myriad of things that get in the way of people's success. I just sort of picked out the top 9 that I've ran into myself and the ones that I've ran into my clients. Now I may do a volume 2, 3, 4, and 5 with the other things that I come across, but these are the ones. These are the biggies. And so if really that's it, or if there's some area of your life you're just going, why am I stuck here? Why am I stuck in this spot? As you read through these, I think you're gonna go, oh wow, that's why. That's why I'm not moving forward. It's because I've been blaming everybody, or because I've been trying to bite off more than I can chew. All these different things, and these are all just timeless. They're timeless ideas. If you've read any kind of self-help stuff, you probably came across them. I'm presenting it in a different way, and that's what we need sometimes. We need things presented in a different way. I like to present my stuff in what I think is in a humorous way, and you can tell by looking at the title and even at the cover. It's kind of a funny title, and the funny cover, and then of course the title is kind of funny. But yeah, if you're just kind of unhappy, dissatisfied with where you're at, then this book is for you. If you're one of those folks that God bless
What do you say to people who have tried to change and have had those setbacks?
you, I tried to change for read my first. I think I read my first personal my self improvement book probably when I was like 14, 15. I think it was I'm Okay, You're Okay. My mom had it in her home library, and what I would say is, if you're making these changes, well, number one, is that it takes longer than you want it to take. And even when it starts feeling like, oh my God, I really made that change, that's great. Pat yourself on the back and just understand that you probably are going to fall down. You're going to have to pick yourself up again. And you may have to, and I mean, really, I'm starting to wonder if it's a lifelong battle. I don't know. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, you could just get to a certain place and just be comfortable and just stop there. I don't know that I ever will. I like to push myself to do new things, bigger things, different things. Um, it's and if you watch if you I mean even if you read biographies of like famous people and stuff, they all talk about the setbacks. You look at their life and go, oh man, they've had it easy, or they've really done a lot. They've all had setbacks. We all have setbacks. Things are not going to be smooth all the time. Just accept that.
Yeah. One of your chapter titles was Failing at Failing, I think, or how did you word that?
uh oh shoot, right offhand, you're going to fail at failing this time, I think. I can't remember right offhand. um but that's the thing. I mean, if you failed before, you just have, and this is one of the things that drives me crazy when somebody will come to me and they'll go, oh Jim, you're my last hope. No, 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 please don't make me your last hope. If
Right.
this because look, if if everything worked perfectly for every single person, then there would just be one thing, right? So um, whatever I'm doing may not be your thing, as good as it is, or it may take you to a certain level. You got to keep trying. You got to keep trying, man. You got to go read something else. I think that mine may be a little bit more approachable for some people because it's written very like I'm. Somebody described it as like I'm having a conversation with you, and because there is some humor in there, so it's maybe not as dry as some other personal growth books. And I'm coming from a place like, look, I'm not going to tell you that I've been, I remember hearing Wayne Dyer talk one time, and I love Wayne Dyer. The thing that bugged me was he said something about something, and he said, well, I knew I wouldn't have any trouble because I was always very disciplined. And I'm like, I mean, I love that you were always disciplined, but how are you going to help me? Because I've never been disciplined, you know? So you're not going to get this from some guy who says, oh, it's always been easy for me to love myself and to just, always never blamed anybody else. And I mean, I still, my default reaction is to blame everybody else in the world if something happens. That's my default. Like, I have to stop myself literally and go, no, it's not their fault. It's maybe not even my fault. It just is. That's all it is. So, um, and that was one of the things that my editor didn't like was there were some times in the book when I said, and I still at times will struggle with whatever it is. She was like, no, no, no. That people want to read from an expert. They don't want to know. They want you to have solved the problem. I'm like, look, I've solved the problem 80%, but I still have feel like I still have moments where, like, because I used to have this feeling like I thought everybody didn't know me or didn't like me, didn't remember me. So I'd walk into a room where I knew everybody, and I'd just be like, oh, they all hate me. And still, sometimes I walk in and I have to remind myself ahead of time, going, nobody hates you, and if they do, who cares? You know. So it's still it's if you're struggling with these things, it doesn't mean you failed at it.
Like when I was talking to my spouse, I said it's only a failure if you stop. You
Yeah,
can take pauses, you can take
exactly.
a break, you can have the setback, you can lose the determination for a minute. You know, if you're
Yep.
losing the determination, maybe it's just time for a rest anyway because you're exerting a huge amount of like pressure on yourself. But it's only a failure if you stop, if you give up.
That's a great point because I'm very much in this entrepreneur mindset where hustle, grind, all that stuff, and I will especially so about a year ago I had a wake up call and I started slowing down a little bit, but I still kind of push myself. I don't necessarily I don't really necessarily think of myself as needing time off because I love the work I do so much. But this week, my wife decided to go out of town with our daughter to Disneyland and stuff. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out of town too. And so I went to a hotel, and I didn't work for the first 2 days I got here. I didn't do any work, and I thought I would come down here and do a bunch of stuff. And I was like, no, and it was great. This is the first work I've done, and this will be my third day here. So, and I do have some work to do today, but it was so nice to just rest and recharge. And
Yeah.
I think that it's so important that, so I haven't done my morning routine, which I'm very adamant about my morning routine. I want to do that every day. Um,
Yeah.
just understand you're not going to be perfect, and it's some
Yeah.
days will be perfect. I love those
Yeah.
days, by the way. The three that I've had in my life. Um, um, but um, it's just being imperfect is just perfect. I had a
Yeah.
I had a colleague that what did she used to say? She had this great line like I don't remember how it went, but it was something about being perfect.
Yeah, we were actually just talking about it before we began because I mentioned like you look amazing still. Your results are showing, and for me, I'm coming off a carb bender. That's just reality. So my listeners know that my weight is something that I've had to work at, and even though I had great success in the past, I had a big setback, gained it all back, and it's been several setbacks since then of trying to manage things that I don't always understand. And as my body's aging, it's got different needs and requirements, and now it's responding differently to things, and that just is what it is. But today, initially after carving up for the weekend, I got this little vibrating plate machine.
Oh, cool. Yeah,
You know what? For $120, that thing makes me so happy. I can't even imagine that a
cool.
vibrator making somebody happy, but that's not that kind. It is one that you stand on. And the
Ah,
reason that I love this thing so much is it's not just the fitness benefits of having to build the core strength because you're standing on this thing as your whole body is shaking. And if you don't have some core strength, you're going to land on the floor potentially. But it's also there are extra benefits. So I noticed that I get really good lymph drainage when I use
mm,
this thing. And
yeah.
immediately, and it can only be like 10 or 15 minutes. And so today, after eating all the bad things, I could have decided not to hop on the machine, but I was like, you know what? I'm going again because I'm not willing to call this a failure yet. I'm not ready to throw in the towel. So back on the machine I went. And I just had fun with it today. I let myself verbally go as I'm shaking on the machine, which was
Oh,
fun because
cool.
the dogs are like,
Yeah.
what in the hell is happening over there? And
We
the look
finally
of
taught her. Now
confusion.
she's howling.
Right. And they're just like, I don't know what this is. It's a phase. Maybe she'll get past it. I don't know. Um, but it was just priceless. And I think even though we love what we do, there are times when we still have to let go of some of the seriousness, let go of some of the work. It's like a huge misconception, isn't it? That if you love what you do, that you don't need a rest. It's like sometimes the brain just needs
Hmm.
that space. I mean, that's where new ideas come from. That's where the new inspirations come from, is those moments in between. And so for me, that's what a carp up is sometimes. I need that
Sure.
moment to just I'm gonna self indulge and then I'm gonna come back to what is good and what is helpful. Um, but the other thing I love about this machine is it's nice for the nervous system too. So for people who've had PTSD, that shaking is actually really soothing to the
Hmm.
vagal nerve and everything, and then like the lymph drainage. So I feel amazing after. But at any point, it could have been a choice. It could have been, oh, I'm not disciplined enough, or I could have been speaking to myself poorly and saying, oh, you had a bad weekend. Why should you even bother? You know,
Yeah.
change the talk, make the new choices, and we can all change. Any additional notes you'd like to tell the audience today?
I think if I just want them to take one thing away from this, maybe a couple of things away,
Yeah.
is that, you know, you really can change. And you may have tried before, and you may have to keep trying. And what I would say is, if you're in a place in your life where there's, I don't mean necessarily a place, but it could be an actual where your living conditions or in your mind or whatever that you're not happy with. You have two choices. You can either learn to accept it or change it. And what I found is too is that you don't have to actually reach your goal before you start feeling successful. And I think this is one of the most important things. Like I would say to somebody who's has a big goal in front of them. Like when I needed to lose 100 pounds, I remember before I came to this realization, I would think, oh, I can never do that. It's going to take me 2 or 3 years. at a reasonable rate. I need to lose right away, or I'm just going to give up. But what I realize is after like 20 pounds, people start noticing. People go, "Wow, you look great," and you're like, "Really?" You can buy a new pair of pants when you lose 20 pounds. Every step of the way, and so that's even if you're building your nest egg. That first $500 you get, you're gonna, oh my God, I don't have the 10 grand that I want, but I got $500 now that I didn't have before. So every one of those things, there's you don't have to wait till the end before you're gonna start feeling great. So it's well worth it to make those small changes. It's the small changes, and I talk about this in the book. We only hear about the people that do the big thing, right? Because they show up, they end up on Oprah or they end up on Google News and stuff. The ones that lose 100 pounds in 6 months, and watch their TikTok videos. This is what I did. We only hear about them because it's so rare. It's so rare. That's why it's a big deal, right? If that happened all the time, we wouldn't hear about it because it'd be like no big deal. It's the people that do it slowly that nobody notices, right? We don't hear about them. They don't end up on the talk shows. They don't end up on the news and in newspapers and stuff. Oh, it took you 3 years to lose 100 pounds. People want that. Oh, 6 months. I did carnivore. I lost 120 pounds. It was so easy because I did. No, that's the rarity. I mean, that's great for them, but that's the rarity. That's like winning the lottery.
Yeah. When it becomes, for me, it's the little things I do every day that I incorporate in that steadily get me there that make the difference.
Yeah. It's, nobody got, this is what I always tell my clients too. Nobody got significantly overweight because they had a piece of cake on their birthday. It's that cake every day that does it, It's the things we do every.
Yeah. And so just start small, be steady. If you fall off, get back on.
Yeah, if it's you're just you make a couple of small changes. If it's money, one of the things that helped me was my friend Antonio. He Antonio Perez, you know him.
Yeah.
He did the process with me, and I went from never saving any money to getting to the point where now every time I see a $5 bill, I can't wait to put it in my con heo, which means pig in Vietnamese. My wife and I, we get $5 bill. Every time we get a $5
Which is
bill,
rabbit
that goes
in
in.
Spanish. I'm so confused.
I know it's weird because con it's you would think that it's Spanish, but in Vietnamese,
Yeah.
it's before any animal that lives on land, you say con, and it's kind of like the or something, but it's not exactly the. It's just a word. I don't understand it exactly, but
Like mammal.
yeah. So so con horse, con whatever, but no, it's not Spanish. So
Yeah. Awesome. And so I think the next place I'm going to be seeing you is Michigan. And no keynote from you this year, although we have some amazing keynotes coming. Talked about them. We've had Dan on the show a couple of times, but I
cool.
have no doubts that you'll be presenting. Do you mind sharing what you're presenting on?
Yeah, I'm teaching my class Launch Now. Um, it's for newbies that don't know exactly what they need to do, and for folks that have been doing it for a little while, they're not sure why they're not getting to that next level. There are certain steps to take, and the first thing that I cover is mindset. And I know that word is used a lot in the space, but it really, honest to God, is the most freaking important thing there is to your success. It's 100%. It's your determination, your motivation, your discipline. And don't worry if you don't have that right now. I didn't have it either. I remember thinking at one point, like, it's too bad I didn't play sports when I was a kid or went into the military or something, because that's how you get discipline, I guess, because I'll never have any. But discipline's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And so it really is that it's that mindset. And then we go through a few other things, and it's the
So cool. So it sounds like a little bit of all over, whether people are just starting or they want a little more clarity on their journey as they're continuing to build. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one of the biggest things that is something that I want to make clear in my classes is that there was a great movie back in the '90s, early '90s, late '80s called Field of Dreams, and it was
Yeah.
and
I
if
can't count the number of entrepreneurs who are like, oh, I don't want to build my website yet because if I build it, all of a sudden I'm going to be too busy. And it's like, no, build the website because
build, take the
ain't nothing
chance,
going to happen for the
take the
next 10.
chance. You won't get Google won't even know you're there for 6 months, so don't worry
That's
about
right.
it.
That's
It's
right.
I've had that same thing. I'll get too busy. You know what? Take the chance. If you get too busy, you can refer them to me or Amanda. We'll happily pay you a 10% finder's fee or something.
Yeah.
I find that hilarious too. The other one is the ones that are like, I'm going to build a 100% referral business. Oh, that's so cute. Yep, that's a great goal to have, and in maybe 10, 20 years that might happen for you. But and we're also, as especially in the hypnosis field, we have it's especially difficult for us to build a referral business because nobody wants people to know, number one, that they got help, number two, that they used hypnosis, because people will think they're weird.
That's right.
I've had people have success. I had a client one time, he had success with his hypnosis. He was biting his fingernails. He had stopped completely. People are like, oh my God, how did you see
It's
the
working.
evidence? It's working.
That is my biggest complaint. And you know that I am a hypnosis enthusiast. I love it all. I do it all. I never thought I would be teaching, but that is incoming. And my
Yeah,
biggest complaint is the healing is so subtle sometimes that the
it is.
clients don't realize. And I'm guilty of this as well. I'm guilty of
Oh
using
yeah.
hypnosis, and it takes me 3-4 months before I'm like, ooh, I changed this thing. Oh, that's right. I worked on that. So and so gave me a session, or I did a protocol. But that is really a testament to what it is. It's subtle, it's gentle, but it is effective. And I can't even get mad when clients don't recognize the success sometimes. And that's why I always check in of, hey, what positive changes have you noticed? Because if I don't ask, they won't look and they won't know. And then it just takes one person saying, oh, this thing doesn't work, even if the success is there.
That's so true, Amanda. You really have to remind them, okay, well, but when you came here, you were biting
Yeah.
those fingernails every day, right? How often are you doing it now? Oh, you're not doing it at all. Okay. So something's happening, right? This, that. I'm not sure if it's a hypnosis or not. Well, pretty coincidental, don't you think?
I mean, that's what you came here for, and you're getting what you needed, but okay.
Yeah. Well, I like
Yeah.
you, I've been guilty of that. I remember I was
Yeah.
talking with a friend one time, and I guess I had explained to him about that frustration of people not realizing it, and he was talking to me about how I'd lost.
For me, and I tell this story a lot, but I don't think you know it. Ever since I was a little girl, even though I didn't believe in past life regression, I had always had night terrors of snakes in my bed. And I used to wake up and rifle through the bed looking for
Ah,
snakes. And that had happened my whole life. I'd never known anything without it. And I had the Dolores Cannon method of QHHT for past life regression. I saw a whole lifetime that explained why that would be a problem and a fear, why it would be legit. And it took me 6 months after it stopped for me to realize that I was no longer getting out of the bed in the middle of the night looking for snakes like a crazy person while my spouse stood by looking at me. You know? But healing can be that subtle, and you're like, wait a minute, that stopped happening. What changed? Oh, that's right, I had that session.
yeah.
I'm a hypnotist. I should know this. Um,
Because I think we kind of expect, I think, like there's going to
yeah,
be this lightning bolt moment where all of a sudden I won't want apple pie anymore or something. Like I won't be afraid of snakes anymore. But it's so subtle and it comes from inside. It is such a weird thing. I had a client just.
right. So, for someone who wants to learn hypnosis, I am not yet a teacher, but you are. When is your next upcoming class if someone wanted to get in on this field and start making change that way?
I believe it's the first part of October. I believe it's October 2nd. Could be October 1st. The other class I talked to, so I do a shorter class at conferences that launch now, but I also do a longer online version of the launch now, and that's like 2 days later. It's starting the new live first part of October as well.
Is there a prerequisite or an order that you like to help people to navigate through?
Those are both the starter courses, right? Hypnosis 101 and that. Um, it's kind of almost better if they haven't had any kind of experience. I remember
Yeah.
when I was teaching massage therapy. I remember it was always the students that had a weekend workshop that were the hardest to teach because they already knew everything.
Yeah. I keep learning new things about you today.
I remember
One of these
specifically
days.
this one girl. She had done a 2 day massage class. And she was always correcting me on things, and I'm like, "That's so weird. You've been doing this for like 15 years, and your weekend workshop, you'd learn more." I see. Okay.
Oh, goodness.
Oh yeah, I used to be a massage
Oh,
therapist.
man.
That was
Right?
previous my previous journey. Yes,
Your past life.
that's right.
Mine was graphic and web design.
Wow, that's very different. But
Yes, it
comes in
is.
handy being an entrepreneur, that's for sure.
Yes, it does. And I'm pretty sure that was divinely timed because Spirit was like, she's going to be broke right about that age. She needs this skill.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, that's my recommendation.
Yeah.
If you want to be any kind of an entrepreneur, whether it's selling T-shirts or um, doing hypnosis, first classes you should take are marketing or web design. Google just won't get any work if you can't do those things.
Yeah. Yeah. Harsh industry truth right there. And are you still seeing clients one on one?
I do see a few from time to time. It's not my focus anymore. I like to do it. I'm happy to do it. It's just that I've got so many other things going on that I just it's not my big focus.
Okay. But you're still doing the shows. And I heard you say murder mystery, and I know you do the comedy hypnosis as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do comedy hypnosis shows. I produce.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I will put your website in the show notes as well as anything else that I can find. I'll scroll and look for your TED Talk and put that in there because honestly, to be able to speak passionately and well about something for 18 minutes is a feat of strength as far as I'm concerned. I can speak about anything for an hour, but 20 minutes, that's hard. And
And you know
I
what?
very much enjoyed yours.
Thank you. And you know, if I were gonna, if anybody out there ever gets a,
Well, sir, thank you so much for coming on today. Is there anything else people should be looking forward to for you in the next little bit?
thing,
Yeah. Okay.
but you know, there's some free resources they can get over on my.
That is awesome. So if somebody wants to make a change and become a hypnotist, they can scroll on over, check out your free resources, and start moving towards who they want to be. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and for being just a really cool colleague and someone I'm honored truly to call a friend.
Awesome. Thank you so much for.
Because it sits right here beautifully doing its job. Yeah,
That's
I was
awesome.
saying, if we're going to have a fight over the next gift this year coming up in September, there's always dual custody, I suppose.
Amanda, you're
Oh,
awesome. Thank you so much for. And you know what? Let me just plug Hypnosis Hero. If you go look up
yeah.
my YouTube channel, youtube.com at Jim Kellner. Look on Hypnosis Hero, and go look at Melissa's um, her episode. She was on and she blew us away, and just blew us great stuff on that podcast that she did.
Thank you. I show it to all my mediumship students. I do. And Jim, I don't think I'd ever seen you more pale than I did that day. Oh, goodness.
I love telling the
But
story
that
about
was a
too. I
cool
was just
day.
telling somebody recently. I was like, you know, with something like that, I didn't really want you to demonstrate because I didn't want you to fail because I really like you. I think you're a sweet person, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sure she's convinced that it's true, but you know, it's you know. And then when
She's
Brian
just
kept asking
delusional.
questions, and he was the one that said, "How about a demo or something?" I'm like, Brian, shut up. You know,
Yeah, no, and I would have made it clear otherwise, but that's the wonderful thing about mediumship is, the moment we can remember that it's not really about the medium, it's about being of service and getting ourselves out of the way is the biggest challenge for most of us. And it's the same whether you're doing change work or mediumship. Take yourself out of the equation, just show up and do the work, and you can have a really good, beautiful result. And so for me, mediumship, whether they're in person, whether it's virtual, whether it's in a chat box on Facebook, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. No.
it's
I
awesome.
show up, I take the chance, I push my edge, and I just focus on being of service. But It was cool that you gave me that chance. And even though you didn't believe or anyone else didn't believe, it was cool that you allowed me to come in to share that and to give you a different opportunity to see something different.
I
That
liked it so
memory of
much.
your
I'm going to come
face.
learn it from Amanda. So
You are. We have, yeah, we've got you on the schedule. I can't wait to see what that's going to be like for you. But I think you've already got it in tune, and it's more just catching it as it's happening and identifying it. Yeah,
cool.
it's going to be awesome. All
Sounds
right,
good.
soulful seekers, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Trauma and Transcendence. Stay healthy, stay blessed, stay inspired. Bye for now. Wishing you bright blessings. Thank you for joining us on this transformative episode of Trauma and Transcendence. Your stories matter. I would love to hear them and from you. Connect on our website, healingbeyondtrauma.com, or drop me an email at amanda@healingbeyondtrauma.com. Remember, healing is a journey we take together. Until next time, stay connected, stay inspired. This is Amanda, wishing you bright blessings.